So they'll be calling you a radical, the Great Pacific Genocide, Kevin Blanch's incredible PhD. Let's get to it. So this is it used to be hypothesis. It's not hypothesis. What is this? This is the Columbia River stillhead counts. The red is this year's. The blue is last year's. That's the 10-year mean. The 10-year mean has been devastated because they go to sea for 1 year. You know, they can go twice. And they begin to collapse immediately in 2011. Now, stay with me. This is historic, important stuff. The nuclear disaster right here, Fukushima, Japan, Kevin Blanch. This is full-blown out meltdowns. They're lying. They're going to push water on it, pushing, and they've been pushing the whole time. It's going to get in the Japanese current. It's going to come here to the California current. It's going to devastate. It's going to be the Great Pacific Genocide. It's going to cause a heat bubble over the western United States. The Great Western Drought, as Kevin Blanch named it. The Great Western North American Drought. Kevin Blanch named it in 2011, 2012. That's when it started. It's going to cause a gas, a vapor, to be pushed into the ocean. Storms are going to rise up. It's going to cause a heat bubble. It's going to get into the trees. The trees are going to cause fires. I named it plutonium. The tide pools will collapse first. Then the salmon will go. The gray whales will go. Big fish eat little fish. It's going to cause mutations. It's going to cause... She's going to come after the people. What about this pandemic? So, anyway, everything that I hypothesized. Now, this is the smoking gun. Full blown out nuclear meltdown. It's pushed in. It took Kevin Blanch a year and a half to convince anybody it was one meltdown. Only person talking about it. Not coincidence. Coincidence doesn't get it in science. So stay with me. Here's the data. It's not hypothesis anymore. We have 10 years of data. This is why we're using the Bonneville. Because the drainage on the Bonneville goes clear into Canada. It's the biggest, by far. 400 tributaries come into it, and we use very good sonar. We count it, and Kevin Blanch has held ODFW and feet to the fire. Oregon, well, they report it. The Army Corps Engineers classified me, by the way, so they count it. So let's get to this data right now. Okay, so you can do this on your own. This is their site, which is very good now. Let's go to annual totals. Okay, let's start with the stillhead. Let's get to 2010, what they were before the disaster. Let's go to, see how many years they'll pull on this. I don't know. Let's go to stillhead. You can do this on your own. I'll give you the link. Here we go. 416,000 in 2010. Immediately started to drop. They go to sea 1 to 2 years. This happened March 11th. These fish run in September for the most part. The big run is mostly in September. August. Started to devastate them immediately. As you can see. Now remember, this is with full blown out gill netting and fluke fishing. These are big returns, so they were gill netting in front of the dam. Now I verified this through ODFW. They gill netted well over 400,000 fish and caught and kept over and gill netting together in front of the dam. This is the number at the dam. Before the dam, well over 400,000. So you can double that number. And I verified this through ODFW. You can do it yourself. It's 800,000. 826,000 is the number. That's the number. It's an arguable fact. So we'll use the after the dam number, which is skewed by double because they quit gill netting and fishing for the most part 2 years ago. Boom, 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 boom. What? 77,000. Now let's go back to what the number is. 77,000 from with. Now remember, absolutely no gill netting. Hardly any fishing at all were taken out in front of the dam in 2019. So we go from 826,000 to 77,000. Let's stay here. Let's go back. Let's get to the graph. Hang in there with me. Okay. You can do this on your own. This is unarguable data. Now, well, I was hypothesized Kevin Blanch first. Okay, so here, sorry about that. Let's get to the totals. Right here. Here we are for the year right now. We're at 57,793. And the season's pretty well over, as you can see. So we've gone from 826,000. Now remember, this is no gill netting. Very, very little gill netting. Very little fishing in front. 57,000 from 800,000. Even if you use the post gill netting number, it's 400,000. We can do math, kids. Okay, let's move to the Chinook. Now, why are we going to move the Chinook? Now, remember, they go to sea 1 year. They can go twice. So this is the unarguable proof of the Fukushima disaster. Okay, let's get to the Chinook. 420,000 to date with no gill netting. Very, very, very little gill netting. They gill netted for 10 days from what I understand this year. Last year, no gill netting. So let's get to the annual totals. Let's go to the graph first. No, that graph I can do is no good. Sorry. Let's get to the annual totals. Quit messing around. Okay. Bonneville. 20. Now, okay, now why are we doing this? 2015. Now stay with me. Why I'm doing 2015. We want all this data because this is the unarguable proof of Fukushima. Stay with me. Now stay with me. Chinook salmon are born right here. The little fries come out. They live their whole lives here in the ocean. Their whole lives. Same with steelhead. They live in the ocean. It's not a pasture. It's the ocean. It's their home. Big fish eat little fish. They come here to die and to be born. That's it. They don't live in rivers. They live here. They go to sea on average of 5 years. On average of 5. They can go up to 8, but on average of 5 years. So the 5-year number is giant. Now stay with me. This is important. This is historic. So and we'll backtrack on this too. 2015, 1,337,000. That's with full blown out gill netting, full blown out fishing. I mean, they're Army Corps, they're grandstand, they're doing videos, record returns. So with gill netting and fishing, and I've verified this through OFW, 2.7 million. Modern day record in 2015. Everybody's laughing at Kevin Blanch because I'm going crazy all over the internet doing my PhD for God and everybody to see because they've captured PhDs. I've been transparent as you can possibly be, including with my leukemia. I'm like, no, they'll collapse in 2016. 2015, you see the number. That's with full blown out gill netting. It's an unarguable fact. You can call them and talk to them yourself. They put their projections here after the gill netting at 1.7. I put mine at 680,000. It came at 690. Oh, Kevin Blanch got lucky. This year, they put their projections at 2.3 million post-gill nets. This is at the dam. I put my projection at 480,000. Oh, once his luck, twice his skill. This year, I put my projection at 333,000. They put theirs at 2.7 million. This is when they started to freak out. They're like, this dude got it right exactly. Once his luck, twice his skill, 3 times the recorded history. So this is when they got panicked out, and they pulled the gill netting. You can cut that number in half. They pulled the gill nets in 2019. That number, you can cut it in half. No gill netting and no fishing. Very, very little fishing. Remember, if you use the gill netting, that's 2.7 million to 300,000. 2020, it got a little better because there was they had limited gill net, very little. A little bomb? Not really, because there was no gill netting. None. So, now remember, they go to sea for 5 years. So we go from 2.7 million to 500,000. Now let's go back on the annual total. By Tim Martin, it says if that's you can believe their number. Okay. We're 420,000 right now. Let's go back to annual totals. Let's see if we can get a little further back on the Chinook. See how far back they can. Let's get back into 2012, the year after the disaster. You can do this on your own. I'll provide the link. Let's do all species. Okay. 1.2 million, 1.5 million, 1.3 million, to 420 we are right. Still head. Whoa. So remember, it's important. Put this in symphony with Kevin Blanch's Dead Tide Pole work, with the heat bubble of the western United States, with this acute radical collapse of the fires, of the mutations, of the sea life dying. The sills in 2014-15 starving. The anchovies and sardines are down 99%. You can look that up. It's an unarguable fact. The collapse of the whales, 312 wash up dead just 2 years alone. Starved. That's just the ones we see. You can times that by 10. Not coincidence. So you can laugh at Kevin Blanch's work all you want. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. You know, you can attack me, you can do whatever you want, but unarguable. Unarguable. Dying at sea. Of course, the 10-year mean on this graph is very low because of what I just showed you. 10 years of numbers just declining. There's the 10-year. It's on the stillhead. There's last year's unbelievably low number. This is this year's. So Dynasty. Whoa, 57,000 from 800,000. Put that together with Kevin Blanch's typo work, my Fructonium fires, my heat bubble. And I want to ask all you pro-nukers and everybody, scientists are mystified, baffled, stumped, perplexed, bewildered, curious, alarmed. You're just going to hold that narrative. So you're telling me full blown out nuclear meltdowns push the energy. They've been pushing water into the Pacific Ocean the entire time. The IAEA did their press conference last month and said, and they were pressed on this in Vienna, which I've been there lots of times, and they said, well, let me be honest with you. We can't get near these cores. We have no idea what the cores are. We don't think anybody on Earth knows what they are. Because it's never happened. It didn't happen in my act, didn't happen in Chernobyl. Chernobyl was one partial meltdown that 750,000 men entombed. These are full blown out meltdowns that the United States government made the decision to just go into cover-up mode. You know, and 3 administrations later, still in cover-up mode. So it's unarguable data. So I want to ask you all, you so-called scientists, you PhDs, everybody that's so you're telling me full-blown out meltdowns, the basic fundamental foundation to all science, to all logic, to all philosophy, to all reason, is for every action there's a reaction.